Part 49. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 481. 51st floor. 52 floors. 53rd floor. Every time Lin Suying climbed up to a level, Xiao Li counted them carefully. Soon Lin Suying reached the 70th level. Xiao Li's eyes widened. Is it true that my mother is also so powerful? It's so easy at the 70th floor. Before, the 5th junior brother reached his limit when he reached the 70th floor. Now you know mom is awesome, Su Xian said with a smile. That. Xiao Li said excitedly, if mom can reach the 99th floor, I will definitely be able to go above the 99th floor like my teacher. Are you so confident? Of course. Xiao Li smiled and said, Teacher, you have already said that you hope that our disciples will be better than our masters. When Xiao Li grows up, he will definitely be better than his mother. Otherwise, how can I protect my mother? But compared to my father, it seems to be a little bit behind. Su Xian could indeed feel the increasingly stronger aura on Xiao Li's body, and he was afraid that sooner or later he would be unable to suppress it and explode. So much so that he didn't dare to arrange for Xiao Li to face an opponent that was too strong. Otherwise, Xiao Li is likely to break through directly when he is angry. Lin Suying's journey to heaven continues. 72, 73, 74. The records of Moira, Tianbaiyu, and Vivian were broken one after another. It was not until they reached the 80th level that Lin Suying finally showed her decline. Standing on the 80-level heavenly steps, her body no longer switched between reality and reality. It was obviously a bit difficult. The 80th level of heaven is enough to become the first person under Su Xian, but Lin Suying is not satisfied with this. She feels that she can do better. With these alone, it is not difficult to complete the next thing for Su Xian. As a wife, as a mother, she can do more and she can do better. Starting from the 81st floor, every step seemed to become extremely difficult. Is this the end? If it hadn't been for Su Suanmian's sudden emergence, Shui Yuqing would have been at the top of the younger generation. Compared to Su Suanmian's rise, Shui Yuqing's growth history seems to be closer to us. What a pity. Looking at it like this, King Shuiyu probably won't be able to hold on for long. It's so difficult to walk up to the 80th level. I'm afraid I'll be swept down instantly when I reach the 90th level. Everyone sighed. At this time, they naturally hope that Lin Suying can go further. Each step represents not only the talent of King Shuiyu, but also the hope of the human race. Every time you go up a ladder, there is more hope for the human race. King Shuiyu has done enough. We can't count on Su Xianmian and now Shui Yuqing. With this mentality, even if we can survive this crisis, it will still be useless next time. The overall strength of the human race is the true strength. Many strong men sighed in their hearts. Boom. 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 The ancient bell rang again and again. Lin Suying reached the 89th floor with difficulty. One floor higher is the 90th floor. She also began to become extremely nervous. The water moon factor became more and more active in her body. She controlled her mind and body to achieve a perfect balance. Before preparing to break through, she had already communicated with her husband. According to Su Xian's description, starting from the 90th floor, every time you go up, you will be suppressed by the mental projection from the top boss of the chaotic universe. If you can't resist even once, you will be ejected from the heavenly level. Su Xian also said that her teacher's projection was also on one level. Even if it was to see her teacher again, she would never give up. Call. Lin Suying stood on the 89th floor of the sky, took a deep breath, then stepped out with one foot in mid-air, and the 90th floor of the sky slowly condensed. Step on the second foot as well. Boom. In an instant, a surge of spiritual power rushed into her mind, and she seemed to see a vague figure walking in the chaotic universe. This time, her consciousness almost sank, and she almost fell to the heavenly level. Fortunately, I held on. It doesn't seem that scary. Lin Suying was quite surprised. She was actually prepared for something more serious. Although the mental shock this time was terrifying, it was not as bad as Su Xian said. It was relatively easy for her to resist. Su Xian was far stronger than her, so it shouldn't be as difficult as described. Does everyone face it differently? Lin Suying had no time to think, so she could only explain it this way. Below. The strong men were even happier than Lin Suying and burst into cheers. Hang in there. King Shuiyu actually climbed to the 90th floor. The 9th level is a qualitative change. This couple is really scary. Perhaps Su Xianmian taught King Shuiyu some secrets to ascending to the heavenly level, so King Shuiyu was able to stabilize on the 90th floor. I just don't know if King Shuiyu can reach his limit. Almost every step he takes from the 90th floor is a qualitative leap. During the discussion, Lin Suying took a short break and took another step. 91 floors. It was another vague mental projection, but after enduring the impact, her adaptability seemed to have become stronger. She staggered but still persisted. Feeling the projection of these big men in the chaotic universe, she felt even more insignificant. Even the entire blue star world is nothing. Next is the 92nd floor. By the time she crossed the 92nd floor, her teeth had begun to chatter and she was becoming increasingly dazed. Set foot on the 93rd floor again. She felt a familiar breath, coming from the abyss. Is this the Lord God who controls the abyss? She naturally only hated the Lord God of the abyss. The abyss invaded Blue Star and let her newly born children see such a messy world. The teacher is even more powerful than the Lord God of the abyss. Lin Suying was surprised. Since the Lord God of the abyss is on the 93rd floor, it proves that the teacher is still above. According to the order of the will of the chaotic universe, it proves that the teacher is stronger than the Lord God of the abyss. She was happy and complicated. The teacher was so powerful but did not choose to intervene in this war game, proving that there was a powerful existence behind the scenes that made the teacher more afraid, so the teacher was unwilling to get involved in the storm. The Lord God of the abyss was already despairing enough. A stronger one? Unimaginable. After walking through the 93rd floor, the water and moon factor in Lin Suying's body was almost suppressed by more than half, and the support she could give her was getting less and less. Going up to the 94th floor, there was also a slightly familiar breath. She knew that this person was called the Ghost God. The fifth Miao Tian inherited part of the power of the Ghost God. Go up to the 95th floor. She was unfamiliar with this person's aura, she had never seen it before. When she got here, the water-moon factor in her body was completely suppressed and almost exhausted, and she was about to fall down. She used up her last strength and stepped onto the 96th floor. Boom! In an instant, the suppressed water-moon factor instantly became extremely active, and a kind and gentle aura came to her face. Lin Suying was ecstatic. Teacher. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 482. The water-moon factor was full, constantly restoring Lin Suying's strength. As her mental power spread, she saw the figure of her teacher. But compared to the teacher she saw on weekdays, the figure of the teacher at this time was so ethereal, wandering in the chaotic universe, and the power he exuded made her feel strange and familiar. Teacher! She shouted again. The figure wandering in the chaotic universe finally turned around and looked at each other across the endless starry sky. The water-moon sword even made a sharp tremor at this moment. The water-moon factor continued to be integrated into the sword, causing this mythical weapon to undergo a qualitative change again. Lin Suying's body was also like this, constantly switching between reality and illusion. Her soul seemed to be trapped in illusion at this moment. The words that the teacher said echoed in her mind. Flowers in the mirror, moons in the water. False and real, true and false. Flowers in the mirror, moons in the water, cannot be touched. These few short sentences made Lin Suiying constantly pursue the truth. How difficult it is to integrate what you have realized into your own path. Suiying, when you truly understand the reality and illusion, master the reality and illusion, and your mind and body can switch between the reality and illusion at will, you will truly understand the true meaning of this way. She seemed to be pulled into the scene of the last meeting with her teacher, and she tried to recall the scene at that time. Switch between the reality and illusion at will? Just like the teacher, everything he built was so real. At that time, he and Su Xian really thought they had entered another world, but it was just an illusion. I can do it too. For Su Xian. For the children. I must do it. Lin Suiying's body became much slower in the transition between reality and illusion. She closed her eyes slightly, carefully sensing the changes of the water and moon factors, and the vast mirror lake unfolded again under her feet. Her body gradually sank into the mirror lake. Countless sword shadows rose from the lake. Every sword shadow seemed to be Lin Suiying, but not. The water and moon factors floating between heaven and earth gradually sank into the lake. After an unknown period of time, all the water and moon factors between heaven and earth disappeared. The sword shadows exuded endless truth. Whoosh! The lake surface was rippled. The first sword shadow rushed to the sky, followed by the second, third, fourth. Each sword shadow was the water-moon sword. Under the stimulation of these sword shadows, the 97th heavenly steps gradually appeared. Thousands of sword shadows washed by. When the last sword shadow was broken. Wow! The Wanli mirror lake suddenly gathered to the center, forming a human figure. Lin Suiying landed on the 97th heavenly steps with a sword, standing swaying. Wow, Mom seems to have become more powerful again. Xiaoli saw her mother's transformation and danced with joy. Fortunately, she prayed for her mother, otherwise she would fall down. Su Xian couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Although he didn't care whether his wife was strong or not, she was not as strong as him anyway, but with Suiying's personality, if she was too weak, she would definitely feel disappointed. That's why he hoped that Suiying could go further. The other strong men of Blue Star also cheered. Such performance, although inferior to His Majesty Su Xian, is enough to look down on others in ancient and modern times. 97th floor. Lin Suiying saw a crying mask with tears floating in the chaotic universe. It was quietly floating there without any movement. No matter how the chaotic universe sways and the order changes, it cannot shake it in the slightest. At the other end of the mask, on the side facing away from her, there seemed to be another mask, but she could not see the front of the mask, and she only felt fear in her heart. This person's spirit did not seem to have much impact on her, allowing her to continue to step up. Lin Suiying did not dare to stare at it for too long. The more she wanted to see the other side of the mask clearly, the more fear she felt in her heart, causing her soul to tremble constantly. If she ignored the mask, she would not be affected. Retracting her mental power, she stepped onto the 98th step. The vast breadth spread in her mind. She saw an extremely vast world, a life world that was much larger than Blue Star and Lowland Star, and much larger than the Abyss world. There are countless horrors gathered there. It gathers the destiny of the entire chaotic universe. That figure sat in the center of that vast world with his back to all living beings. Just looking at his back from afar, he felt that he was too small. Even if this projection did not deliberately target him, Lin Suiying still felt endless pressure. The 99th floor. Fortunately, these two floors did not deliberately target the lives of the upper heavens, otherwise it would be almost impossible to cross these two heavens. I don't know if Su Xian faced the same scene when he came here. Stepping onto the 99th floor. Confusion, death, and despair, the three emotions of confusion, death, and despair, her soul instantly fell into depravity, confusion, and fear of death. Struggling in despair. This breath is very familiar to her, it is the Tower of Delusion and the Tower of Death standing on the land of the Twin Towers. But the most terrifying thing is here. Knowing it, but unable to resist. Under the transformation of the three emotions, the soul seems to be torn apart. It took her an unknown amount of time, as if millions of years had passed, before she finally broke free from the three emotions, and her mind seemed to still be shrouded in a shadow. Too scary. Lin Suiying didn't even dare to think about it. She saw a super avenue leading to the chaos and nothingness in the sky. She didn't want to stay at the 99th floor, so she immediately embarked on the road to break through the limit. Boom. The next second, the sky steps dissipated. At the same time, Lin Suiying's body fell straight from the sky. But this result can already make countless strong people admire. After His Majesty Su Xian, the Water Moon King broke the limit again, and the fire of hope on Blue Star seemed to burn more vigorously. Lin Suiying, who was falling continuously, opened her eyes. Just now, she saw a fisherman, but the moment she saw him, she lost consciousness. Then the avenue of nothingness collapsed, and she fell down. Enough. Lin Suiying knew that she had tried her best and did the best she could within her ability. This is her code of conduct. Not to satisfy everyone. Just to be at peace with her conscience. Whoosh. Her figure turned into an illusion and dissipated like a splash of water. The next moment, she appeared beside Su Xian, smiling and falling into Su Xian's arms. Mr. Su, how is Suiying doing? Very good. Su Xian smiled. Mom. Fly. Fly. The two babies fluttered over, each holding one of Lin Suiying's feet. Xiaoli looked at the gradually dissipating golden glow with bright eyes. She felt that the power in her body was becoming more and more uncontrollable, and perhaps she would break through at a certain point. My power has transformed. Lin Suiying looked puzzled, but I feel that I am still far away from the legendary realm of God. What's going on? Warm TI. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 483. I don't know the prerequisites for becoming a god. Su Xian said, I also heard some information about God from Lord Zilong. God is not at the same level as ordinary extraordinary life. The semi-god realm is just a guess of mankind. Everyone thinks that the realm above is the god realm. In fact, if you break through it, you can only be called a pseudo-god. Breaking through the limit of the 99 heavenly levels is a pseudo-god. Lin Suiying also heard this for the first time, and her eyes widened. Does that mean my current realm is the pseudo-god realm? Su Xian nodded. We both belong to this realm for the time being, but I am also at the top level in this realm. Then how do you think you can become a god? The higher you stand, the greater the pressure on Lin Suiying. Before the breakthrough, she could be carefree under the protection of Su Xian, but now she has to rethink the overall situation of the human race on Blue Star. You must know that the enemy facing Blue Star now is the Lord God of the Abyss, one of the ultimate existences in the chaotic universe. Even if that Lord God cannot directly attack Blue Star, as long as he uses a little trick, he is still an existence that Blue Star cannot resist. Even her husband was restrained by the opponent's attack across the endless starry sky. Other lives on Blue Star are probably not even as good as ants in front of that person. Even if she becomes a life at the level of God, she is definitely not the opponent of the Lord of the Abyss. Su Xian pondered, according to Lord Zilong, if you want to become a Lord God, you must be recognized by the world will of a super life world and the ultimate will of the chaotic universe. Then you can condense your own godhood and be called the Lord God. There is a God seat under the Lord God's seat, which can make the pseudo-God realm become his slave, gain stronger power and extremely long life. As for how to become a god, I don't know. Lin Suiying thought, you said that becoming a Lord God requires the recognition of the ultimate will of the chaotic universe. Is this also a condition for becoming a god? The word God seat may be the key. Even her husband can't sense the opportunity to become a god. Perhaps there is an important reason, that is, the vacancy of the God's seat. Without the God's seat, new gods cannot be born. This is her guess. It makes sense. Su Xian nodded, just like the conservation of the origin of life in the primary life world, the power of the chaotic universe is always in a state of conservation. To give birth to a true God, the energy required is too vast, which may cause the probability of later generations becoming gods to become smaller and smaller, until they cannot condense the godhood. The two people's speculation is indeed based on facts. Just like the low-level life world like Blue Star, the number of strong people that can be accommodated is also limited. The more strong people in the semi-god realm, the less resources Blue Star will have. The only way to crack it is for the entire life world to absorb the energy from the chaotic universe and continue to evolve. But how can the chaotic universe evolve? It cannot evolve. It can only let countless lives reincarnate in life and death. Willn't that no one can become a god anymore? Thinking of this, Lin Suiying suddenly became a little decadent. Is it possible that being born weak, you can only become a pawn in the end, without even a chance to resist? Not really. Su Xian smiled and comforted, there is still hope. At least I think the energy of the chaotic universe is still sufficient. Maybe it's not the reason of the chaotic universe, but other reasons. Lin Suiying no longer struggled. Su Xian patted his chest, don't worry, with me, all blockades will be broken. He didn't know whether the energy of the chaotic universe was enough. He only knew that the system was enough now. As long as there was another opportunity, he would be able to complete the breakthrough. Time is like flowing water. 3 months have passed since Lin Suiying's breakthrough. Su Xiaojun and Su Xiaoxiao have shown strong talents in their growth. They can feel the energy of heaven and earth before they are even 1 year old. But Su Xian still didn't teach the two little guys to practice. If you want to learn these, you have to wait until you are at least 4 or 5 years old. For children, the biggest problem is character. These days, his disciples have been practicing desperately, but there is always a lack of qualitative change, and Su Xian still can't take the last step. This step is particularly difficult. He also tried to find the 12th disciple, but still found nothing. In the early morning, the couple was playing with their children, and suddenly a large area of purple spread at the edge of the sky. The entire sky was dyed purple. Thick purple clouds were stacked one after another, covering the sky, as if to press the sky down, to press down to the ground, and crush everything in the world. Why is it so dense? Lin Suiying's face changed. Purple is naturally a sign of the invasion of the abyss, but this time the sign is countless times stronger than before. Did the abyss retreat before, really for this moment to come back? Looking at the large piece of purple clouds, the mood of countless lives on Blue Star was as heavy as those clouds, and they felt exhausted and powerless to resist. It seems that our previous induction was correct. Su Xian said, the turbulence of the life source of the abyss is indeed the plan of the Lord of the Abyss. Perhaps he forcibly interfered with the operation of the abyss world. Gather a large amount of life source to strengthen these abyss lives? This is the difference between the super life world and the low-level life world. With such a crazy attack method, other life worlds can only sink. Will there be a more terrifying existence than the 8 ancient monarchs this time? Lin Suiying was originally quite confident. But at this moment, her heart became uncertain. If there are more lives that are comparable to the 8 monarchs, she may be able to deal with 1 or 2, but if all 8 come out, she is afraid that she can only lose. Don't worry, if I really can't resist, I still have a trump card. Su Xian seemed to be bound, but he was not really sitting and waiting to die. If he really wanted to make a move, he was confident that he could forcefully break the restraints, but he would only hurt himself and lose his retreat. He didn't want to do it until the last moment. Those chess players had many chances, but he only had this one. He had to endure. When those chess players realized that he might threaten them, he must have the strength to be a real threat, and now he is qualified to reshuffle the chessboard. Well, after getting Su Xian's promise, Lin Suiying felt much more at ease. Her husband never let her down, not before, not now, not when he was weak, and even less when he was strong. She believed that Su Xian could do it. What she had to do now was to buy time for her husband, even if it was just a minute or a second. Buzz. The water moon sword vibrated. Returning to its true master, feeling the master's strong will to fight, the water moon sword seemed a little excited. Are we finally going back to the battlefield? Lin Suiying looked at the increasingly heavy purple clouds, and the water moon sword turned into light and flew away into the distance. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 484. Aqua blue light cut across the sky. With a sharp sword cry, Lin Suiying rushed directly into the ultimate battlefield. Her expression was extremely solemn. Just the thick aura of the abyss made her tremble with fear. Even if she reached the limit of the 99th floor, she was still not sure. She didn't know what kind of opponent she was facing. Looking at the land where chaotic energy was raging, her mood was extremely complicated, as if she saw Su Xian who had stopped here alone before. What a lonely and desolate moment it was, and what a determined mood it was. Only by experiencing it personally can she know. What Su Xian can do, I can definitely do it too. She held the Shuiyu sword tightly, and the aura on the other side of the passage became more and more violent. Wild Wind Hunter, the tailor-made armor has countless white marks added under the raging chaotic energy. Whoosh! At this moment, a long rainbow rushed in from Langxingport and landed steadily half a step behind her. Lao Wu. Master's wife, let the disciples also contribute to this battle. The person who came was none other than Lao Wu Miao Tian. Lin Suiying also knew that Miao Tian had the power of ghosts and gods. Currently, there were only a few blue stars who could barely fight alongside her, and Lao Wu was indeed one of them. She didn't dissuade him, just nodded slightly. Having a partner should always make you feel more at ease. Xiao Suiying, you are so unloyal. Suddenly, another figure fell down, and Moira, holding an eternal scepter and wearing an eternal crown, also appeared next to Lin Suiying. She smiled and said, I haven't really moved my muscles for a long time, so I borrowed the eternal scepter and eternal crown from Atna to play with little Suiying. They say I am a great prophet, but actually my fighting ability is also very strong. Ha ha ha. Loud laughter rang out in the distance, and Tian Biao stepped forward with the Biao sword in hand. If Moira Mian hadn't broken through too early, he would have been able to go very far on the Tianjia road. However, with Moira Mian's current combat power, it should be enough to make up for the regrets on the road to heaven. The sky fell silently, looked at Lin Suiying, and said with a smile. His Majesty Su Xianmian has done so much for Blue Star. As the Commander-in-Chief of the Blue Star Alliance, I can no longer let His Majesty's wife guard the ultimate battlefield alone. King Shuiyu, we will accompany you in this battle. These few are already the strongest in the Blue Star Alliance, but facing the coming Abyss combat power, they are still a little behind. But at this moment, they are the only ones who can stand up. Boom! As soon as Tian Biao fell, a strong aura of the Abyss rushed from behind. Everyone looked back and saw a purple and black aura coming in an instant. Teacher's wife. Zhang Mu's eyes quickly swept across the crowd, and then he saluted Lin Suiying. Sorry, I'm a little late. Fortunately, I caught up. Today's Zhang Mu's strength has also made a qualitative leap. The fusion of the Chaos Original Stone allowed him to transform again. Coupled with the demonic body and the almost strongest demigod forbidden technique 9 transformations of rebirth, he also has the qualifications to stand here. Lin Suiying nodded slightly, her eyes red. I thought this would be a lonely battle. But no one has forgotten her or Su Xian's contribution to the world. Isn't this the meaning of protection? As for other battlefields, they weren't too worried. With Qing Qing developing the third batch of anti-abyssal weapons, and several major disciples obtaining the Chaos Raw Stones to complete a qualitative leap, it was enough to fill their vacancies. 5 people stood in a row, looking towards the other end of the passage. There was a huge and burly figure pushing through the purple cloud. He had 8 heads and his body was extremely weird, like a toy put together at random. But his aura frightened the 5 of them. That's... Zhang Mu's pupils shrank suddenly. In terms of familiarity with the abyss, he was certainly ranked first. This monster contained too many familiar auras. The Lord of Underworld, the Lord of Blood Killing, the Lord of Dreams, the Lord of Light and Shadow, the Lord of Swanyu, the Lord of Devouring, the Lord of Golden Cicada, and the strongest Lord of the Candle Dragon among the strongest monarchs of the Abyss. The auras of the 8 oldest Abyss monarchs were actually integrated into this huge symbiotic monster body. The strength of this monster also reached a point where they felt unable to resist. Whoosh! The symbiote kills instantly. Buzz! At the same time, the beautiful mirror lake unfolded instantly, and the water moon sword rushed straight towards the symbiote, but the monster was faster. The moment Lin Suiying's attack struck, he suddenly slapped it away with a palm. If it was true, Lin Suiying would be seriously injured on the spot. The giant palm fell and passed through Lin Suiying's body. Now Lin Suiying had completely mastered the secret of virtual reality conversion and avoided this palm. The palm fell. The already divided chaotic land was smashed into pieces, and even the chaotic energy was suppressed. The other 4 people also went up to kill him. Zhang Mu and Miao Tian are responsible for the main frontal attack, while Moira controls the entire field with the Eternal Scepter, constantly containing the symbiote and giving warnings to her teammates. Tian Baiyu is preparing to assassinate. This was the first time for the 5 of them to fight together, but under Moira's command, the cooperation was exquisite. However, the symbiote is stronger than they imagined. After fusion, it is almost watertight and has no weaknesses in any aspect. It made everyone feel that they were facing an ugly version of Su Xian at this moment. Die! Die! The symbiote was extremely violent. Su Xian! Where is Su Xian? Kill Su Xian! Kill Su Xian! After being slaughtered by Su Xian in all directions, this became their obsession. They combined all their strengths to regain their dignity. The Lord of the Abyss poured a lot of life essence from the Abyss world into shaping this body for them. Their fusion also brought the killing intent against Su Xian to its peak. The core of the symbiote's survival is the obsession to kill Su Xian. Master's defeated General. Do you still want to compete with Master? Zhang Mu kept hitting with his fists, mercilessly mocking the symbiote. Others were even more surprised. What on earth did Su Xian become after being beaten by these 8 ancient Abyss monarchs? They even wanted to seek revenge on Su Xian after the symbiote was resurrected. If Su Xian was really here, how could this monster have the qualifications to shout? The 5 people worked together to resist the monster. At first, they could fight evenly with the strength of Lin Suiying and Miao Tian, but the 5 of them were not one after all, and there would always be mistakes in cooperation. And the symbiote was a perfect fighting machine. Any small mistake would be fatal in a battle of this level. Boom! Finally, Tian Baiyu was found an opportunity by the symbiote and was punched out. The whole person was directly dragged under the chaotic land and was instantly submerged by the raging chaotic energy. One person made a mistake, and the others were immediately implicated. At the same time, Zhang Mu and Miao Tian, who attacked the symbiote from the flank, were also swept away directly. Fortunately, Zhang Mu's ability to resist attacks far exceeded Tian Baiyu, and Miao Tian was possessed by the ghost power that the less blood he had, the higher his attack. I'll contain him. Moira, save Tian Baiyu first. Lin Suiying took the initiative to kill to buy time for his teammates, but the situation was obviously getting more and more unfavorable. Until now, they have not found the weakness of the symbiote. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 485. The eternal scepter burst out with a soft white light. Moira waved her hand, and two huge green vines drilled into the chaotic earth, pulling out the submerged Tian Baiyu and healing his body at the same time. Fortunately, the power of the world tree can be temporarily borrowed. Otherwise, Tian Baiyu's injuries would be difficult to recover. Lin Suiying barely restrained the abyss symbiote by virtue of the virtual real conversion, but the consumption was getting bigger and bigger. If they continued to fight like this, defeat was a matter of time. Once they lost, the abyss symbiote would rush into the blue star, which would be a disaster for the human race. Big brother, cover me. At this time, the chi and blood sword behind Miao Tian had condensed to the extreme. Seeing this, Zhang Mu's chaos stone on his chest lit up, and he rushed forward suddenly, punched, and the fist print reached the sky, forcibly suppressing the symbiote. At the same time, the chi and blood sword behind Miao Tian was pulled out. The blood column rushed into the sky. The violent plague mixed with the raging chaotic energy finally caused substantial damage to the abyss symbiote, but it was far from fatal. Lin Suiying held the sword to the sky. The water and moon factors gathered. A sword was slashed out. The sword energy crossed the sky and disappeared in an instant. When it appeared again, it had slashed the body of the abyss symbiote, and the skin of the symbiote continued to burst like a broken mirror. The injury worsened further. The Book of Prophecy appeared in front of Moira's chest. The Eternal Scepter, the Eternal Crown, and the Book of Prophecy complemented each other, and finally condensed into a point of white light, which slowly floated towards the symbiote extremely slowly. Tian Baiyu's silent knife also slashed with a cold edge. The five people have used almost the strongest moves. A point of white light fell. The body of the abyss symbiote was directly blown apart, and the bursting effect of the mirror flower water moon sword was enhanced again, and the erosion of the violent plague was even more fierce. Finally, the silent knife slashed through the 8 heads of the symbiote. The cold knife was intended to cut off its life source. The joint attack of the 5 people seemed to have finally worked. The life breath of the abyss symbiote declined at a very fast speed, and it seemed to be defeated. Boom! Finally, the body turned into ashes and dissipated. Danger! Seeing the body annihilated into ashes, Zhang Mu felt his scalp tingling, and the next moment he was blown away by a huge force, and his body was smashed into the chaotic land uncontrollably. The raging chaotic energy was like a boring ant, making it impossible for him to gather strength and rush back to the ground. After all, the chaotic energy of the ultimate battlefield is the superpower generated by the collision of the original forces of the 3 worlds. If he is not careful, even his level will be seriously injured. It's okay. Seeing Zhang Mu being hit under the chaotic land, the other 4 people were terrified. It seemed that the abyss symbiote brought them only despair. Whoosh! The symbiote flashed again, and the spikes pierced Tian Baiyu's chest. The latter was injured and unable to resist, and was thrown directly into the chaotic land. Miao Tian's ghost power had almost been used up, and it would take a long time to condense again. Now there was no time left for him. After several resistances, Miao Tian was also beaten down. Only Moira and Lin Suiying were left in the field. Xiao Suiying, I can't beat it. Moira's bitter voice sounded in Lin Suiying's heart. Next, I will use the ancient seal formation of the spirit race to temporarily trap it, and you go back to discuss countermeasures with Su Xian. No. You can't trap it? How could Lin Suiying not understand her good friend? The elf formation is extremely complicated, and there is no time for Moira to perform it now. Even if she sacrifices her life, it can't drag it for too long. If she really can't beat it, she doesn't want her friend to sacrifice. It's better for the two of them to escape together. At this time, one more person alive means one more hope. With the help of the power of the World Tree, they may be able to trap this abyss symbiote. I'll hold it back for a while. You save people. Thousands of sword shadows appeared in the mirror lake under Lin Suiying's feet, and they kept killing the abyss symbiote. Moira saw this and had to save people. Since Suiying decided to give up this position, she had no choice but to do so. She once again transformed into 3 vines and rushed into the bottom of the chaotic land, but she felt a distortion in the space. She wanted to hide, but her thinking became extremely slow. It was as if the flow of time slowed down by tens of millions of times at this moment. Boom! When she recovered her thoughts, her body had been pierced by a sharp thorn condensed by light and shadow. Oh no! Lin Suiying arrived in an instant, hugged Moira's body, and the two of them became virtual at the same time and jumped to a distance, barely escaping the disaster. At the same time, the 3 vines also pulled out the injured 3 people. Only the battle reached this point. Except for Lin Suiying, who still had some fighting power left, Moira, Zhang Mu, Miao Tian, and Tian Baiyu had very little fighting power left. And the abyss symbiote was at least 70% of its peak state. They could only fight to this point with all their strength. If they continued, they would probably die. But at this moment, it seemed that they had no chance to escape. Without much thought, Lin Suiying pushed the 4 people to Langxing port. At the same time, 4 runes on her arms lit up. With her current realm, the backlash of opening the water moon rune would not be so strong, and she would not lose all her bones like before. But now seemed to be the time to consider those things. She could only do this. Go. Pushing the 4 people away, Lin Suiying turned around and fought alone with a sword. If you don't leave, no one can leave. Wait for you to get out, I will find a way to leave. Lin Suiying's voice rang in the ears of the hesitant crowd. This is the best way at this moment, and the other 4 people also know this. Indecision will only kill Lin Suiying here. The 4 people flew out. Lin Suiying stopped the abyss symbiote with a sword. The virtual and real transformation. The blooming of mirror flowers and water moon. The beautiful sword intention danced between heaven and earth, painting the ultimate battlefield of chaos into a lonely sunset. But as time went by, she felt more and more tired. The power of the rune was gradually dissipating. In her perception, the 4 people had left the ultimate battlefield. She did not linger in the battle, and her body immediately turned into an illusion and fled far away, but the speed at this moment could not support her escape. The blockade of space became more and more serious. Even if it was virtual, it could not escape the large-scale ban. She seemed to see a colorless time prison condensed around her, and her thinking gradually became slow, and so were her actions. Could it be? Will I die here? She was unwilling, but she was powerless. Even time and space were imprisoned, where could she escape? The abyss symbiote turned into a long rainbow and flew over. The light and shadow spikes might pierce her heart. Her pupils gradually shrank as she saw a golden hammer rushing over at an extremely fast speed in this slow picture. The time and space prison was smashed like a mirror in an instant. The suffocation disappeared in an instant. What came into view was no longer the familiar petite figure. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 486. Xyli. Lin Suying raised her head with difficulty, looking at the strange figure in front of her, and could only try to find some similarities between her eyebrows and eyes. But there was only indifference between her eyebrows and eyes. She stood proudly between heaven and earth, her body was like jade, she was stunningly beautiful, and her white clothes were whiter than snow. Under her feet, the shadow of the nine-layer world appeared, with thousands of countries standing on it. In the blurred light and shadow, countless people seemed to kneel down and pay tribute to her. She was like a female emperor, looking down on the nine heavens and dominating the world. Facing Lin Suying's eyes, this peerless figure just nodded indifferently, then held the hammer handle and looked at the abyss symbiote in the distance. The two passed by. Lin Suying did not shout the second sentence. She did not have the courage. She was afraid that if she shouted another sentence, her fantasy would be shattered, and she would not be able to help crying shamefully. The familiar golden hammer, but no longer a familiar person. Her life seemed to become confused all of a sudden. The past scenes played in her mind. She clearly remembered that when she first saw Xyli, Xyli crawled out of an egg. The first time she saw Xyli, she fell in love with this girl from the bottom of her heart. Therefore, she was willing to bear the suspicion of countless people, raise Xyli alone and treat her as her own daughter. For so many years, she has devoted countless efforts to Xyli. The days when Xyli grew up ordinary were her warmest memories as a mother. Until the ordinary was broken. Xyli became different, more and more powerful, even beyond the scope of human beings, and her heart was hanging. From that moment on, she knew that this day would come. She just didn't know what form it would take. She didn't dare to think about it. But she had to face reality. Lin Suying was at a loss, her hands fell weakly, she was lost, and she looked back every 3 steps, but she didn't dare to really take a look. Su Xian. She took a difficult step. At this moment, only Su Xian could comfort her heart. She had lost her backbone, and she was afraid that she would go crazy. That cold look was like a thorn. It pierced her heart fiercely. The thorn hit a mother who had devoted half her life to it. Behind her, there was the roar of the abyss symbiote. The 8 heads of the abyss symbiote became extremely hideous at this moment, as if something was about to break through that face and rush out to tear apart the peerless woman in front of them. The appearance of the peerless woman awakened the memories deep in their hearts. Obsession and murderous intent merged into one. The woman still looked at the abyss symbiote coldly. There were also memories turning in her mind. The 2 memories kept colliding in her mind, but eventually they returned to one place. Her heart would occasionally ache. When she couldn't help but turn her head to look at the lonely woman who walked out of the world channel, the tingling feeling was even stronger to the extreme. Xiao Li. Empress. She looked up at the endless chaotic void, where there was a gray and lonely star buried in the dust of the universe, and there was everything she wanted to find. Roar. Roar. The roar of the abyss symbiote became more and more intense. Noisy. The woman swung the sledgehammer in her hand, completely ignoring the blockade of time and space, and smashed it directly on the symbiote, knocking it thousands of miles away. The cold permeated. Without waiting for the symbiote to stabilize its body, she appeared above the symbiote again, and smashed it again with a hammer, smashing it into the chaotic land. Even so, she still had no intention of letting go, her body fell straight down, ignoring the raging chaotic energy, going straight into the ground, and attacking one after another, almost overturning the entire chaotic land. The dirty blood of the symbiote made her murderous intent stronger. Bang! Another hammer. The 8 souls hidden in the symbiote appeared on their hideous faces, like evil spirits that could not escape from hell, waving their hands and struggling helplessly. Kill! Kill kill. The body of the Abyss symbiote was completely out of control. Countless memories were in a mess. Boom. The golden hammer penetrated the sky and the earth, completely subverting the chaotic land, smashing the Abyss symbiote into pieces, and 8 broken souls flew out of it. The broken soul looked at the woman in front of him in horror. It's you. You're not dead. No. You are no longer her. Under extreme obsession, the 8 souls wailed at the same time, and finally dissipated unwillingly, turning into countless soul particles. These soul particles surrounded this world. The woman stood there blankly. Let the soul particles affect her spirit. Her consciousness became trance. At that moment, she seemed to have returned to a long, long time ago, so long that she could not remember the vague time. Good child, you will live here from now on. This hammer is left to you, just knock it yourself if you want something. Here, you can do whatever you want, no one will disturb you, I will come back to see you when I am free. That day, she was left in this strange and desolate world. The man who had no name but whom she regarded as her father left her with a magical power, and she used this power to ignite the fire of life in this desolate world. There were more and more lives in the world, and she was very happy. However, the origin of this world was too weak to even become a real-life world, not even a low-level life world. She filled the world with her own life source. Under her nurturing, the desolate world finally began to evolve, and she fell into a deep sleep. When she woke up again, humans had already appeared in this world. Humans. It is a very special race in the chaotic universe. Her father is a human, and she also thinks she is a human, so this life world is nurtured according to her wishes, and the life that is nurtured is also a human. The uncivilized human race in the world worshipped her as the creation god. Looking at such an evolving world, she felt very interesting, and she was looking forward to the return of her father whose name she did not know. Her father should be very happy, right? Later, there were more and more human races in the world. She realized that people's emotions were so complicated, there would be many contradictions, and they would kill their own people for some things, at the cost of their hard-earned lives. As the world continued to evolve, she also learned a lot. There were also various emotions in her expectations for her father. In the past, there was only expectation, but later she would worry, be afraid, and cry alone. She fell into a deep sleep again. When she woke up for the second time, the world had changed dramatically. Some humans who could fly and hide seemed to want to sneak into her sleeping place. She drove them away. But she found that the relationship between humans was becoming more and more disharmonious. Humans were no longer equal. Some people were above countless people and dominated the lives of others at will. But she did not stop them. Because she found that no matter how the world evolved and how humans evolved, this situation would never disappear. People in the world are always greedy and want to get more. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 487. Waking up from a deep sleep for the third time. The evolution of the living world has reached an extremely high level. The entire world was divided into 9 levels during evolution, and was named 9 heavens by the human race of this world. The realm of practitioners in the Jushin world is also getting higher and higher. The desires of the strong are also growing. They want to break through the limits and break out of this world. One of the strongest men wanted to sacrifice the 9 heavenly beings, gather a large amount of life sources, and open up a path beyond the limit. The battle between good and evil in the 9 heavens world began, and the sky collapsed and the earth was shattered, and the sun and the moon lost their light. She finally took action and stopped the war. I remember that day, countless human races in the 9 heavens world paid homage to her, and she was revered as the Empress of the 9 heavens. After this time, peace was restored in the Jushin world. Until she woke up after her 4th slumber, People's hearts were unpredictable, and no one was willing to surrender all the time. Even if she did nothing, she attracted the covetousness of those powerful and powerful people. Several of the strongest men in the Nine Heavens world jointly launched a sneak attack on her. At this time, the most powerful people in the Nine Heavens world were able to comprehend the original power of the chaotic universe, but they were still killed by her, but this scene made her feel chilled. The beautiful world in her heart shouldn't be like this. My father definitely doesn't want to see such a world. But what can she do? Let the Jushin world return to chaos. She can't do it. Disappointed, she could only continue to sleep and wait for her father's return. She went from being single-minded in the beginning, to gaining many emotions with the growth of the human race as she evolved into the living world, and finally fell back into indifference. Humanity fades away again, and divinity gradually returns. She always felt that she was missing something, that her life was not yet complete. The accident happened after the fifth sleep. After trying again and again, the strongest people in the Nine Heavens world came into contact with the power from outside the chaotic universe. That world was called the Abyss. When she sensed the existence of the Abyss, Jushin world was also noticed by the Abyss. She also sensed a transcendent existence in the Abyss world. That was the first time she felt threatened. "Father, aren't you coming back yet?" She overlooked the Nine Heavens world. Although this world is not so beautiful, it is the only gift left to her by her father. She will not give up here and face the Abyss, and she is unwilling to leave. She fought an ultimate battle with the gods of the Abyss. In the end, he temporarily sealed the Lord God of the Abyss with the help of the power left by his father, and he also fell into a period of extreme weakness because of the loss of power. Looking at the only gift his father left for him, she didn't want this place to be contaminated by any filth. She also knows that her power cannot completely seal the God of the Abyss. When that God escapes, disaster will come to the Nine Heavens world. So she used the remaining power to silence the entire Nine Heavens world, causing the origin of life in this world to return to a stagnant state. I thought I could escape this. But she still underestimated the power of the Abyss. When she performed the ritual, the 8 ancient monarchs of the Abyss came with the power of the Abyss gods. By then she had very little strength left. In the end, she forcibly sealed the entire Jushin world. She was killed by 8 ancient monarchs, and only a ray of true spirit was left to escape into the depths of the chaotic universe. The hammer of creation left to her by her father protected her, and it landed somewhere following the guidance in the dark. Pain. The woman covered her head. That memory was too long ago and was far less intense than the memory of little Carp. Neither of the two memories gave way to the other, and she didn't know who she belonged to now. Xiao Li's world is full of beauty. Her mother's love, her teacher's love, her senior brother's love, her junior brothers and sisters' admiration, the whole world showed her the purest side. Before this, Xiao Li had almost never encountered any setbacks in his life. If there was no mother crisis, she should be able to live a carefree and innocent life forever. These memories made her envious. It can even dilute the divinity in her body. It reminded her of the carefree and happy world when she first met her father. She looked back. Lin Suying's figure has disappeared. She looked beyond the sky, and there was something there that echoed her. It should be the 9-day world that was banned at the beginning. But she did not go beyond the sky. Just sitting on the ultimate battlefield where chaotic energy is raging, thinking about my father who has never come back until now. She doesn't love the Nine Heavens world that much. All she wanted in her mind was the coordinates of her father's return. She was afraid that her father would not be able to find her. She could feel that the strength in her body was recovering bit by bit. It was a long time ago, and the strength left by her father came back from the long river of time. When the power returned, she looked up suddenly. Outside the sky, the familiar purple figure appeared again. It was the god from the Abyss world. Whoosh! She immediately rushed towards the sky. The Lord God of the Abyss was staring at her indifferently. I didn't expect you to show up here. The prediction of the second divine envoy was indeed correct. The final secret of the divine enlightenment war is buried in this star field. Perhaps you are the key to unlocking the secret war of divine enlightenment. The Nine Heavens Empress didn't know what these words meant, but she had a strong premonition in her heart that perhaps all this was related to the father whose name she didn't know, who left her in the desolate world and never came back. Boom! She rushed out of the blue star sky and chased the Lord of the Abyss. The latter did not fight her head-on, nor did he return to the Abyss world, but rushed to the void area outside the three worlds, where it was dark and densely covered with cosmic dust. I don't know how long he chased. The Lord of the Abyss finally stopped. I saw the Lord of the Abyss suddenly punched the void area, and a layer of gray-white ripples spread there, which completely resisted the power of the Lord of the Abyss. The pupils of the Nine Heavens Empress shrank, her body trembled uncontrollably, and tears flowed from her lifeless eyes at this moment. Father! It's my father's power. No matter how long it has been, she will never forget her father's power. The power of the gray-white ripples comes from her father. Looking at the reaction of the Nine Heavens Queen, the Lord of the Abyss smiled. His guess was indeed correct. If so, it was time to break the balance. Being controlled by the second God's envoy was not the style of the Lord of the Abyss. If you want to find what you want in your heart, break this barrier. Open it. All the secrets buried in the past will be revealed. The Lord of the Abyss smiled. In the chaos and nothingness, the crying mask with tears and the thunder and lightning tower that reached the sky were rapidly condensing. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 488. They are coming. Looking at the rapidly condensing crying mask and the lightning tower, the Lord of the Abyss smiled more and more arrogantly. If they arrive, you will have no chance. You may never be able to solve the secret in your heart again. The Lord of the Abyss continued to swing his power, stirring up ripples on the gray-white barrier. These ripples brought a sense of familiarity that constantly stimulated the Nine Heavens Queen. She covered her head. Two memories rushed through her mind. Father! I want to find my father. The obsession in her heart completely suppressed the two memories. She held the handle of the hammer and suddenly smashed it on the barrier in front of her. The rippling ripple solidified. Then it spread out like a broken water surface. The entire star field was shaken. If there was another hammer, the gray protective layer might be completely destroyed, exposing this star field to the chaotic universe. Boom! The second hammer fell. The lightning tower condensed from nothingness, and the two collided. The giant tower thundered and burned countless cosmic dust. The skinny old man stood on the top of the giant tower. The god wearing a crying mask also appeared beside her. Aesai. What's wrong with cooperating with us? Why do we have to let more people join in? The Eye of Crying spoke, and the ethereal voice echoed in the star field. Het. I admit that I can't defeat the second envoy's calculations. If I cooperate with the second envoy, I'm afraid my end will be miserable. I'm not willing to fail like this. A little chaos is my opportunity. Facing two gods of the same level at the same time, the Lord of the Abyss was not afraid at all. He knew very well that the Eye of Crying would not dare to treat him. By the way, the ninth envoy must be careful. What was the fate of the original ninth envoy? I believe you know very well. If you cooperate with the Eye of Crying, you will eventually become a sacrifice in her plan. The Lord of the Abyss began to sow discord. The ninth envoy maker smiled and said nothing. He didn't seem to care about these, and his skinny body looked harmless. Aesai, you don't have to provoke. Your plan has failed. You have entered this game. You have no choice but to play chess or admit defeat. The voice of the weeping eye was full of confidence. It seemed that everything in the world and the chaotic universe was under his control. Failure? Not necessarily. The Lord of the Abyss smiled and pointed at the Nine Heavens Empress, who was standing there at a loss. What does her appearance mean to you? That person will not perish. He will eventually return. The Weeping Eye sneered, so what? If he returns from endless time and space, the first person he will kill is you, not to mention that he is not invincible. If he could be killed the first time, there will be a second time. The two gods argued. Suddenly, the Nine Heavens Empress standing aside spoke, "Is he the one you are talking about, my father?" Father. This word is not difficult to understand for the Weeping Eye, the Maker, and the Lord of the Abyss. They are not born gods and have also experienced low-level life. But now they no longer agree with their past selves. Now they are the supreme gods. The past selves were just shells with useless souls. The word father is really ridiculous to them. Among the thousands of races, the human race should be the one that likes to use this title the most. They don't understand either. Why did that person use the word father to implicate the Nine Heavens Empress? That's it. Since the key to unlock the secret of the God-inspired war has appeared, the rest doesn't matter, regardless of whether that person will return. The plan will still proceed. Ninth God Envoy, catch her. The Crying Eye spoke. The creator of the Ninth God Envoy nodded, and the Thunder Tower fell down with a bang. The terrifying source power gathered and rushed straight to the Nine Heavens Empress. The latter raised the hammer to resist, but was still rushed into the cosmic dust by the dense source power. The Thunder Tower emitted dense source power again. The original force condensed into a huge prison and locked the Nine Heavens Empress in it. The latter kept hammering and breaking through layers of prisons, but was always trapped in new prisons. The Lord of the Abyss watched the battle. He knew that it was meaningless to take action at this time. The best opportunity to break the situation has been lost. Whether that person returns or follows the plan of the second divine envoy, it is not a good thing for him. The power left by that person is good. It's a pity that he doesn't know how to use it. The Crying Eyes calmly looked at the Nine Heavens Empress, who was constantly suppressed. There was a power in the lightning tower of the Creator for this moment. Complete restraint and targeting made the Nine Heavens Empress have no spare power to fight back. She felt that her power was constantly and little by little restrained. The restraint of power also weakened her divinity further, strengthened her humanity, and her past memories gradually became silent, and the memory of Xylee became active. Even her body was shrinking. Boom. Finally, the Nine Heavens Empress completely disappeared. The indifferent Empress who looked down upon the Nine Heavens disappeared and turned back into Little Carp. Little Carp sleeping. Looking at the little child, the Crying Eye slowly spoke, "Seal her and send her to the central altar. Be careful. Her methods are far from simple." The Creator reached out to grab the sleeping Xylee. Blue Star, Dingai Palace. Su Xian, who was sitting on the World Tree, suddenly felt a pain in his heart. Bang! The purple divine ring in his body was shattered in an instant. Then, the limbs, internal organs, meridians, flesh and blood, soul and sea of consciousness, every part of the body seemed to be sublimated. The power of the body instantly rushed into another level. The system prompt sounded in his mind. Ding! Your disciple Su Xylee awakened the Nine Heavens female emperor body and obtained the power of the God realm. Congratulations on triggering the 10,000 times critical return. Your chaos body prototype has evolved to 90%. You have obtained the power of the Lord God realm. Please note, the Godhead has not been condensed. Xylee. Nine Heavens female emperor body. The joy on Su Xian's face disappeared in an instant, replaced by deep worry. He suddenly raised his head and looked in the direction of the ultimate battlefield. An unprecedented powerful force broke into there. Familiar and strange. Xylee. Su Xian immediately returned to his heart, constantly refining the power of the system, adapting to the discomfort brought by the Lord God level. His body was also transforming bit by bit. The 90% evolutionary chaos body embryonic form brought a complete transformation, which was comparable to the body of a god, and could perfectly accommodate the power of the Lord God. After a long time, the power returned to one. Su Xian opened his eyes and looked far beyond the sky. He stood up and took a step forward. The next moment, he had arrived outside the sky, standing in the Chaos Lightning Tower, emitting shocking energy. In the prison cell, the petite figure was sleeping soundly. It completely ignited the anger in his heart. From this moment on, he should be the chess player. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 489. The ninth god envoy, the Maker, grabbed Xyli. Just as he was about to touch Xyli, the space was suddenly completely blocked. His face changed slightly. He saw several broken sword fragments flying. The strong threat of death forced him to retreat. Boom! The next moment, a figure descended. He stood in the center of the three gods. Looking at the human in front of them, the three gods all changed color. They had been planning around the three realms for so long, so they naturally paid attention to Su Xian. Su Xian was even their most important chess piece. If it weren't for Su Xian, the fusion of Blue Star and Lulan Star would not be so perfect. The bloody battle of the Second War between the two realms would have completely overwhelmed Lulan Star over Blue Star. The fusion of the Abyss world also relied on Su Xian to maintain a delicate balance point. This is an extremely important chess piece. It is even very likely that it was a hidden chess piece that a chess player had placed long ago. The Eye of Crying has been paying attention to Su Xian. He also understood that this chess piece might disrupt the entire chessboard. They had already made plans to remove it when it was out of control. I thought it was not that time yet. But I didn't expect that this dark chess piece rushed out of the chessboard too fast, and turned over the chessboard to become one of the chess players. Is it the dark chess piece left by that person? The crying eyes saw too many familiar points in Su Xian. Until this moment, he could firmly believe that Su Xian was the dark chess piece left by the protagonist of the Gods' Revelation War. That person, Su Xian sneered, I don't know who you are talking about, but from now on, please get out of Blue Star. This was the first time he faced these gods behind the scenes. The mysterious information made him half understand. But he did not condense the godhood, nor was he fully familiar with the power of the main god realm. The prototype of the chaotic body had not evolved completely, and the Taiji Tiandi sword was also missing the last fragment. He did not dare to guarantee that he could destroy these gods. He was also completely unaware of the opponent's methods. No memory. Looking at Su Xian's reaction, the weeping eye relaxed a little. If that person really came back, all the gods and demons would tremble. He was no exception. Leave her here, and we can leave. Since you have reached the god realm, we will not interfere in the affairs of Blue Star. The weeping eye spoke. I don't believe a word you gods say. You don't understand either. Su Xian hugged the sleeping Xyli tightly. She is my daughter, I can't give her to you, there is no other result. Either get out, or I'll send you out. Even when facing the three Lord God realms, Su Xian still had no fear. There was no divinity in him. At this moment, his emotions burned like a raging fire, so strong that he would never exchange his daughter for anything. Ha ha ha. Interesting. The Lord of the Abyss laughed. The weeping eye and the Maker were puzzled. He has the power of the Lord God, but he has no divinity. He still acts like a low-level life, completely reckless. This human has indeed jumped out of their calculations. Hey! Ninth God Envoy, take action. After weighing the pros and cons, the Eye of Weeping finally decided to solve the problem with a duel. He looked at the Lord God of the Abyss again. Asi, if you don't take action, our plan will fail, and this human will not let you go either. The Lord God of the Abyss smiled. It's okay, you fight first. I'm not anxious, you should be anxious. It has to be said that it feels good to make the second God Envoy who is good at calculating lose face. Su Xian held Xyli in one hand and the incomplete Taiji Tiandi sword in the other. He looked at the Eye of Weeping and the Maker. Previously, the Maker had conveyed a message to him through Becky, asking him to stop the war. From that time on, he knew that the Maker and the Eye of Weeping were not of the same mind. The three gods, each with their own ulterior motives. He actually didn't want to fight. At least not now. The ninth God Envoy activated the Lightning Tower, covering Su Xian. This is the most advanced technological creation in the chaotic universe, with countless means of killing gods. Su Xian slashed with the broken sword in his hand. With his current strength, he used the fragments of the Taiji Emperor sword again, and the power was incomparable. He actually passed through a gap in the Lightning Tower. How could it be? The three gods were shocked. They knew very well how powerful the Lightning Tower was. That was the main artifact that could connect time and space, and could forcibly connect two life worlds, integrating countless top materials in the chaotic universe. It was difficult for ordinary main artifacts to leave traces on its surface. This human actually broke it with one sword? Sure enough, this person was the hidden chess piece left by that person, and it seemed that that person would return soon. The Lord of the Abyss laughed again. Two gods, do you regret it now? You have lost the opportunity to open the wall membrane. If you force it open, be careful of being backlashed. The power of that person, even if it is washed by the long river of time, will still be terrifying. Humph! The crying eye snorted coldly. Although it was only a temporary mistake, he still felt offended. He did not like this feeling. But even a mistake of this magnitude was still under his control. A human who only had the power of the main god realm but no godhood could not escape his plan. The crying mask changes. It is still a crying mask. But it has a completely different expression. The mask face before looked gentle and sad, that is the beautiful tears of angels, but the mask face now is ferocious and terrifying, it is the ugly tears of demons. Boom! The extremely terrifying energy fell instantly. The power was too strong, and it hit him directly without the transmission of time and space. Even though he was prepared, he was still thrown into the cosmic dust. The prison with the terrifying power condensed instantly. Su Xian's face became extremely heavy. He finally realized why the crying eye could be ranked on the 97th step, and the real power of the explosion was indeed far beyond the Lord of the Abyss. He had to fight against the old monster who had lived for who knows how many epochs in a completely unfamiliar field just after the breakthrough. He had no confidence in this battle. The prison with the power of demon tears became more and more solid. He controlled the incomplete Taiji Tiandi sword to bombard continuously, but without the support of Godhead, his decline soon became apparent. Insufficient core strength. There is still a fundamental gap between him and the Weeping Eye. If he continues to fight like this, he will surely lose. Is there only one chance? Su Xian had already made preparations, and he had rehearsed the worst result in his mind countless times. But the worst does not mean there is no hope. He will always leave himself a way out. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 490. I don't know what you are planning. I don't understand the meaning of the fusion of three lives. But there is one thing you don't understand. Here, I am the master. Su Xian's voice fell. The life origins of the three worlds actually rioted at the same time. Including the Abyss World, Su Xian also mobilized the world origin. The fusion of three completely different worlds rushed into Su Xian's body. The world tree grew wildly at this moment and rushed into the sky. This is one of Su Xian's plans. He knew that the chess player behind him would definitely make a plan around the fusion of the three realms. In this case, he occupied the base camp first and relied on the power of the world tree to forcibly intercept the origin of the three realms. The power of the fusion of the origins of the three realms actually formed an illusory transparent godhead in Su Xian's body. Bang! The incomplete Taiji Tiandi sword was slashed again. The prison attached with the power of the Devil's Tears mask was shattered. The origins of the three worlds were added. It made Su Xian's resonance with the star field reach an extremely perfect level, and his power was constantly soaring. A mere human being, aren't you afraid of dying of starvation? But I like it. The Lord of the Abyss was surprised and gloated. Although Su Xian had temporarily infiltrated the origin of the Abyss world, he was very happy as long as he could make the second and ninth envoys lose face. Ninth envoy, activate the second energy source. Facing Su Xian, who had the origin of three worlds, the Weeping Eye was still not panicked. He had a lot of preparations, and nothing could escape his palm. The maker of the ninth envoy nodded, and the Thunder Tower changed again. A crimson force burst out from the Thunder Tower, which made Su Xian feel very familiar, as if he had seen it on the 98th floor of the sky. That force was like the fate of the chaotic universe, making all the breath of life tremble, extremely terrifying. Could it be that even the one on the 98th floor is in the same camp as these envoys? Su Xian felt a little numb. If even the one at the 98th level of the heavenly order came in person, he would be completely unable to stop it with his current strength. Even if he faced the Weeping Eye and the Creator, he would have to do his best. At this moment, the little carp in his arm suddenly lit up with golden light. The sledgehammer turned into a small one. It seemed to be pulling something. Su Xian suddenly felt another source of world power. Strange but familiar. His mind turned quickly, and a hazy scene emerged in his mind. It seemed that when he broke through the king's crown, he dreamed of this scene. When he condensed the world in his body, he saw the star cluster in the chaos and nothingness. Blue, green, purple, chaotic mottled. And a ball of gray and dead light. But at the critical moment, it was that ball of gray and dead light that helped him condense the perfect world in his body. At this moment, his perception was clearer than ever before. The blue light group should represent the origin of the blue star world, the green one is the origin of the Lauren star world, and the purple one is the origin of the Abyss world. As for the chaotic and mottled giant light group, it is very likely related to these gods. There is also a gray and dead light, perhaps it is a life world that has been extinguished. Could it be related to the power in Xiali's body? After clearly sensing one power after another, Su Xian sorted out many things in his mind at once. The origin of the dead world was added. The fusion of four powers. Coupled with the power of the inner world, this star field has completely changed in his perception. He saw a layer of gray film covering this large star field. Completely isolated from the outside world. This is exactly the same scene he saw when he broke through the king and condensed the inner world. So, is this the protective layer? Why can the blue star world be secretly favored by the big boss? Because there are also gods behind the blue star to fight against this group of gods who are plotting against the three realms. Boom. Su Xian's mind moved, and the fusion of the four world origins actually triggered the induction of the gray film. Perhaps this is his only chance to maintain the chess game and break the chess game. It's over. The mask of the Weeping Eye turned into angel tears again, and the red power from the Thunder Tower became stronger and stronger, and it seemed that Su Xian was about to be completely suppressed. Swish. At this moment, the gray film suddenly rose and fell like a tide. The power that stirred time and space made the three gods, the Weeping Eye, the Maker, and the Lord of the Abyss, change color. They were bound by a force before they could react. The grey tide swallowed them. It seemed that there was a pair of big hands outside the film, pulling them out. Puff. Su Xian spurted out a mouthful of golden blood. The power that controlled the grey film just now almost drained him all at once. He felt that his soul became shriveled, and his physical condition also slipped rapidly. A heavy sleepiness descended on his heart. He couldn't help wanting to sleep. But he knew he couldn't yet. As long as he fell asleep, the Weeping Eye and the Maker would soon be able to find this place through induction, and he had to completely isolate the entire star field. But if he wants to do this now, he will undoubtedly have to pay a heavy price. For Su Ying, for the two children who are not yet 1 year old, and Xiao Li, and so many disciples and old friends, he has no choice. The last way is also the most risky plan. It was also the most reckless thing he did since he came to this world. Dumb Penguin. Come out. Su Xian summoned the dumb penguin with his limited strength, and the penguin was still sleeping soundly at this time. He remembered what the dumb penguin said. As long as his ability was strong enough, there was nothing he couldn't do in that creative space. In this case, he created another layer of grey film to completely seal the star field. However, with his strength, he could only seal it for a period of time. If his backhand failed during this period, then everything would end. He would lose this game. Come on. Su Xian gathered the last of his strength and entered the mind space. He drew out all the origins in his body, including the illusory godhead that had just condensed and the power of the main god realm, and injected them all into the mind space to forge the grey film. Another layer of shallow film formed, covering this star field. Completely cut off all connections between the inside and the outside. It made this star field disappear as if it had disappeared from the entire chaotic universe, never to be seen again, including Aochi, the Lord of the Abyss, who could not sense it in a short time. After doing this, Su Xian's vitality quickly dissipated. He fell into a deep sleep completely, and if he was not carefully sensed, he would be like a dead person. This was indeed the case. In Su Xian's current state, he could not be considered alive. The stupid penguin also fell into a long sleep, and only a branch stretched out from the distant blue star, gently wrapped around Su Xian's body, and pulled him back to the blue star bit by bit.